Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is George, I review watches, and today we will be reviewing the IXDAO Engineer, one of the most popular, if not the best IWC Engineer Homage on AliExpress. I have purchased this watch from the official IXDAO AliExpress store, and I would recommend, if you're interested in buying it, to get it from the official store to avoid any potential scams or paying a higher price. In general, always buy from the brand's official stores on AliExpress. At the time of the shooting this video, the IXDAO Engineer is being sold for $279 or £233 or €272 depending on your location, before any coupons or other discounts you may have. The watch is available in 4 different colors: black, grey, blue and white, and the white model is the one that we have here. Also, it comes with 3 different movement options: the Chinese PT5000, the Selite SW200 and the ETA 2824. The model with the PT5000 is the cheapest one, and it's the one I have in my hands. If you prefer to opt for a higher end movement, then you will have to pay a premium. Personally, I'm not too sure if it's worth selling out the extra money for the upgrade, as the PT5000 version is already a bit expensive. I have had several watches with the PT5000 movement and never had any issues. They have been very reliable and have been keeping accurate time. That being said though, I am fully aware that this is a relatively new movement and we need more time to test its reliability in the long term, so please do your own research and pick the one with the movement that suits your needs. Furthermore, you can get this watch with the logo only on the dial or a version with the IXDAO text branding. For obvious reasons, I went with the logo only version to avoid the usual Chinese nonsense brand names splattered all over the dial, and I think the logo looks beautiful and fits the dial and overall design quite nicely. So, the IXDAO Engineer is definitely an expensive watch by AliExpress standards. There's always something about that $200 mental barrier, but hopefully this review will help you decide whether or not it's worth buying it. Let's kick it off with the specifications. I'll put everything on the screen, so feel free to pause the video and check it out at your own leisure. Apart from the movement options that we've covered earlier, the case, bracelet and clasp are made from 316 stainless steel. The watch also features a sapphire crystal, a screw-down crown, as well as a screw-down solid case back and super luminova on the hour markers and hands. On the AliExpress listing, IXDAO claims that the watch is water resistant to 100 meters, but as always take these claims with a grain of salt. But overall, we have some pretty solid specs for the price. Let's talk a little about the brand. IXDAO is a relative newcomer and one of the more premium brands on AliExpress. They always produce high quality watches on the more expensive end of the spectrum. And before the Engineer model, they became really popular with the 5303 diver, which is a homage of the Serica 5303. That watch was excellent, the build quality, finishing, the design, everything is spot on. I will do a detailed review on that one in another video. They also have some Tudor homages which I haven't tried, but overall their models are always nicely executed. But let's go back to the Engineer. Let's talk dimensions. As always, I never rely on the AliExpress listed dimensions and measure everything myself with a set of calipers. The IXDAO Engineer has a diameter of 39.5 mm, excluding the crown and the protruding crown guards, and a height of 10.8 mm, which makes it quite slim for a sports watch. The lag-to-lag measurement is 45 mm, and if we include the extension of the end link, it articulates to 48.4 mm. The lag width is irrelevant since this is an integrated bracelet watch, but if you're interested, the first link is 23.5 mm wide and the weight sized for my 7-inch wrist is 132 grams. Overall, the dimensions are well within the Goldilocks range and it will suit most wrists without any issues. Usually integrated bracelet watches do wear larger than the dimensions suggest, but in the case of the IXDAO Engineer, due to the constrained lag-to-lag measurement and the angled lags and straight down draping end links, this watch I think wears like a true 40 mm, so any wrist from 6 inches or larger can wear the watch no problem. Here are some shots on my 7-inch wrist. As you can see, even though I have a small wrist and this is a close-up shot, making everything look much bigger than they actually are, the bracelet drapes nicely around my wrist and looks very well proportioned. Let's talk build quality and finishing. The IXDAO Engineer is very well executed and finished, as this is an area where IXDAO usually truly shines. We have a combination of brushed and polished surfaces and bevels. The round bezel is nicely brushed in an organic circular pattern. The chamfered edges, both on the inside and the outside of the bezel, are polished, adding to the multidimensional 3D look. The rest of the case has vertically brushed surfaces and polished chamfers. The same applies to the crown guards. They are brushed, but the chamfers are polished. And the crown is signed with the IXDAO flower logo, adding a nice high-end touch to the overall case design and finish. The case back is nothing to write home about. It's just a solid case back with some text engraving with the brand name and the water resistance claim of 10 bar or 100 meters. It also says anti-magnetic, but I don't think the PT5000 has a silicone hairspring. At least I haven't found any such mentions anywhere. Please do let me know in the comments if you know. The rest of the case back is pretty simple. It has polished and brushed surfaces and features 6 notches for the case back removal tool, so all in all, nothing special. Last but not least, the crystal is sapphire crystal. It's flat with no anti-reflective coating, so it will produce some glare under certain angles, but overall it's nicely executed and sits flush, resulting in a thin profile of the watch. But let's move on to the main selling point, in my opinion, of this watch, which is the dial. The dial is absolutely beautiful and finished to a very high degree, to the extent that it resembles a much more expensive watch. So the dial features applied hour indices with plenty of superluminova. We have a date window with a color matching date disc, and granted this is a white dial version, but all the other colors available come with a matching date window, which is something I really appreciate and always look out for. Moving on, we have an applied IXDAO flower logo below the 12 o'clock hour marker. The hands are simple sword hands, let's say, but the finishing is spot on. All the edges are smooth, no complaints whatsoever. There is also the engineer text applied at the bottom, above the 6 o'clock position. Focusing more on the dial itself, we have these big squares, if you can call them that switch from vertical lines to smaller squares, like a waffle texture. It is really a unique pattern, obviously copied from the IWC Engineer Gerald Centa design, and it works amazingly. Due to the many surfaces and edges, the dial plays with the light and changes a lot depending on the angle. It's a very interesting dial, and I constantly catch myself looking at it, moving my arm ever so slightly to catch different shadows and light reflections. The dial absolutely comes to life in certain angles, and depending on the dial color you opt for, you will experience something similar. Personally, I prefer the blue teal one and the white one, which I have here. Those two are the most vibrant ones and will play with the light a lot more. Naturally, the black and grey will be a bit more muted, but you can't go wrong with any dial color. Let's talk about the movement a little. This one features the Chinese PT5000. It's an automatic movement with hand winding capabilities. It beats at 28,800 beats per hour or 4 Hz, which results in a smooth second hand sweep. It has 25 joules and a power reserve of around 40 hours. Effectively, it's just another ETA 2824 clone, but it is nicely executed and reliable. I haven't got a time grapher, but the watch I have in my hands keeps excellent time. I have been wearing it daily in the last couple of weeks and never had to readjust the time. Let's move on to the bracelet. I have to say that the bracelet is very nicely finished. It has a nice hefty feel to it. Definitely feels a lot more premium than other AliExpress watches, and even quite a few Seiko watches with double or triple the price tag of this one. The end-link width is 24.5mm and it tapers down all the way to 18mm right before the clasp, giving it a nice slim line which helps with the wearability, and in combination with the constrained lug-to-lug measurement and the straight down draping of the bracelet, the watch maintains its compact dimensions and offers an amazing wearing experience for wrists of all sizes. The finishing on the bracelet is exceptional. The top and side surfaces of the links are vertically brushed. It's the same brushing as on the case, and we've got polished chamfers all around the links. The bracelet is overall understated, but the polished surface give it a luxurious feel, just the right amount to make it stand out, but in a nice and tasteful way. The clasp is a traditional butterfly clasp with the IXDAO branding on the top. Since it's a butterfly clasp, there is no micro adjustments, which is a downside, but the bracelet is executed so nicely that you shouldn't have any issues sizing it to fit your wrist perfectly. My only complaint about the bracelet, aside from the lack of a micro adjustment, is that the edges on the back of the links could have used a bit of sanding down, as they are a little sharp to the touch, but this is very minor in the grand scheme of things. Right, Final thoughts. I was very pleasantly surprised by the IXDAO Engineer. I really didn't know what to expect when I ordered it. Ever since IWC announced the reissue of the IXDAO Engineer model, I got really excited, as personally, I think the Engineer is one of Genta's best designs, but after seeing the price tag on the IWC, I could never justify £10,500 for a stainless steel 300 watts, so the IXDAO was my only option. As mentioned, the strongest selling point of the watch is the build quality, finishing and beautiful dial. IXDAO has definitely delivered in those areas. My only two minor complaints have to do with the bracelet and clasp, sharp edges on the back of the bracelet and no micro adjustment, but I can live with that, and these minor niggles don't take away from the wearing experience of this watch. If you're looking for an IWC Engineer Homage, don't hesitate, get the IXDAO.